Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen, Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. We usually use this time before Salat al-Jum'ah and before Salat al-Isha in Ramadan to answer questions that have been submitted online. If you're interested in having your question answered, you can go to hijrah.info, that's hijrah.info/QA. Again, that's hijrah.info/QA. What is the best way to get out of faqr, to get out of poverty? So before I begin, I'm not a financial advisor. I want to be very clear. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us different means and different pathways to earn. And I would say for the first individual who is in a state of poverty, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one, ease for you and make it and aid you, ameen. I think dua is the easiest and quickest and simplest way to get out of that situation. So if a person is in debt, if they're in poverty, if they're facing any type of financial difficulty, that is the best thing to do. The second step I would say is do a needs assessment. Where is my money going? What am I spending on? What is my income? And then after I see what money is coming in, it helps me determine how my money should go out. And at this point, I should speak to a financial advisor. When I first came back to the US, like 10 years ago, I didn't have any money. And the first place I went when I landed, it was the social services office. And when I got to social services, they gave me my SNAP card, my EBT card. And then I got the insurance, Medicare, a couple weeks later. They showed me on how to apply for assistance once during the winter for heating. They would pay 1 month of your heating bill, and then once in the summer for your AC bill. And that's how I started. So, and while I was doing that, I got a call. I opened an account at Bank of America. And then I got a call from Merrill Lynch because they have an agreement with Bank of America. And as some of you know, Merrill Lynch is an investment firm. And he was a financial advisor. And I told him, I was like, hey, listen, I'm broke. Like, I don't have any money. So, is it okay if I just talk to you? And he was like, yeah. He was like, I'm getting paid anywhere. Like, I have no problem explaining. I said, explain to me all of the different financial vehicles. I said, if I want to make investments, if I want to put money, and I want to remind everyone, I'm broke at this time, right? I don't have any money. I literally, I had $5,000-6,000, and I used that to buy the van that I had because that was the only way we could get around. And I was looking for work. I had a little bit more pocket money, but that was it. And he was like, okay. He was like, here's a 401 plan if you want to save money and put for your kids. Here's a 401k. It was a 503, I'm sorry. So a 503 for your kids. Here's a 401k. Here's a Roth IRA. And I was like, okay, is this how people save and they make money? Yeah. He was like, absolutely. He said, these are all the different vehicles. And I was like, what is the benefit of these? Why do people do this? He was like, oh, for tax deference and this and that. And it helped me understand a little bit on how money works. Because before that, I had no idea. And the reason I didn't have any idea because I was poor and I didn't really care. And then after that, I started talking to other people about, okay, hey, what does investment look like? Where do people put money? And why do they put money in? And I started getting more advice. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing financially well. Regardless of what people think, not all imams are paid poorly. Alhamdulillah, Al-Hijrah takes care of me. But I will say that it took time. I want to say that after a year or a year and a half, I was no longer eligible for SNAP benefits. After 2 or 3 years, I was no longer eligible for Medicare. It takes time. And one of the best pieces of advice that I had received was from one of my close friends, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him. I called him and I was like, Akhi, I have an offer for a job, but if I take the job, I'm no longer going to be I'm not going to have these benefits anymore. I'm going to lose them. And he said, do you want to live the rest of your life in a box? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, if you keep chasing after free things, he said, you will forever box yourself in those free things. And you will never experience true financial freedom. And you'll never truly rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you're always going to be relying on the state, or you're always going to be relying on the federal government, you're always going to be relying on handouts. And just to be clear, even that year I was getting EBT, many times it wasn't enough. Like, we were a family of 6, so they had state-sponsored food pantries. Like, I know the whole system. Like, I know the whole system in and out. And which is why when people come to me, I have maybe a little bit less empathy than somebody who hasn't experienced those things. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does create pathways and ways. And I think one of the 2 easiest ways, because for some people, faqr is written for them, right? For some people, just poverty is written for them. I will say for many people, not everyone, but for many people, a lot of the reasons that we're in the financial situations we are in is because of poor decision making. And I think the easiest way to make better decisions is to surround ourselves with people who can give us good advice and make sure that we're making istikhara for every major decision that we make. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqin, nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.